and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. I received no late items, so if I could have an adoption of the agenda as presented, moved by Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Woodward. All those in favor, and that carries. We have item 5, the adoption of some special meeting minutes of January the 17th and February the 7th of 2025. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Woodward. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pinero. Councillors, are there any errors or omissions that you noted in reviewing these? Okay, seeing nobody jumping up. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So we have no bylaws before us. Item number 7, recommendations from staff. So we're at the annual tax rate bylaw for first 3 readings. Each year, City Council approves a 5-year financial plan, which establishes the annual budget and priorities. An annual tax rate bylaw is also required in order to collect the appropriate funds to finance these activities. The annual tax rate bylaw, number 3640, 2025, is presented for the first 3 readings. As you know, Council, that we have been spending several months, I think we had 8 full-day meetings in developing the budget. And so we're finally here. So we have 2 resolutions before us. So I can have someone move the first motion. Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Tate. Councillor Woodward.
That the Corporation of the City of Nelson's annual tax rate bylaw number 3640 2025 be introduced and read a first and second time by title only.
And that's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions or concerns? Seeing nobody putting their hand up, all those in favor? And can I have another hand by somebody? Thank you. That carries. Thank you. And resolution number 2. Can I have a mover? Councillor Page. Seconded by Councillor Woodward. Councillor Page.
The Corporation of the City of Nelson annual tax rate bylaw number 3640 2025 be read a third time by title only.
Thank you. That's been moved and seconded. One last chance at any comments from anybody? Seeing no hands going up. All those in favor? Great, and that carries. So we are back for final adoption and reading.
I think the May 6th meeting,
May 6th? Okay.
that gets us
And that
there
gives you enough
before,
time?
on or before May 15th is our deadline, so.
Well, I just heard that we only get the school tax rate by May the 10th, so you guys are still
Well,
scrambling.
we don't need, the interesting piece is we only need to include in our tax rate bylaw those rates that we calculate.
Right.
So the province gives us the school tax rates, so we don't actually need to have our own bylaw for that. So
Right.
as long as we get them before we mail out the tax notices, we're.
Yeah, that just seems like, you know, as much as we try to be ahead of this and we tried to do the budget early so that we could start our procurement and
Oh, for sure.
and to think that as staff, you're still waiting for one last document to come in.
Yep.
That, it was more about the lateness of it, like that it's coming in only 5 days before our sort of drop dead date to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row, so.
Well, this is probably about as early as we could do a tax rate bylaw. The regional district has till
Yes, it
April
takes a long time.
10th to get us their requisition, so by the time you turn that around, get it in an agenda, you know, this is probably as quick as you can do it.
Okay, so the next item that we have here is the ReDi Grant funding allocations, and as you know, council, we're gonna go through our matrix. We have Sonia here to lead us through that, along with Sarah and other staff members. So the Columbia Basin Trust provides funding for area projects pursuant to the resident-directed ReDi Grant program, which is administered by the Regional District of Central Kootenay. At this meeting, council is requested to select which grant applications to fund and in what amount. The decision must be formalized in a resolution for submission to the RDCK. And so I know that this is a little bit more casual, and it was lovely that staff provided us with a few snacks. So do feel free to sort of get up if you wanna get a coffee and some snacks while we go through this. We are scheduled to do this over the next 2 hours. Hopefully it won't take us quite that long, and then we'll have another break before continuing on with our meeting for the day. So Sonia, I'm gonna hand it over to you, and if you'd like to maybe let us all know how you'd like to go through this today.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So here we are at this time of year again. It always comes really quick. It's a great opportunity for Council to distribute this funding provided by the Columbia Vista Trust. This year we have $145,313 to allocate, comparable to the last couple of years, $145,342 and $147,197 in 2023. In the matrix that I sent out to Council, you can see that the arts, culture, and heritage group recommendations have been inputted. Yesterday I sent the matrix that they provided with some rationale on how they arrived at those numbers. So in the past, Council's accepted the culture jury's recommendations, and if that's the case today, we would move on to the general grouping, which we have a total of $108,985 to allocate. This year we had a total of 55 applications. 18 of those were split off into that in each C group. And so as Gabe has done in the past, I did highlight the groups that received full funding in green, and the groups that received partial funding are in red, or pink, I guess. So as per the council policy, it is council's objective to fully fund projects when possible, to provide the best opportunity to move forward on their project completely. So everybody filled out their matrix, fully allocating the full amount, so I feel like we have a really accurate base starting point to jump from. We have only $4,774,000 left to allocate. And the way we arrived at the starting point was by picking the top 4 numbers and taking the lowest of the top 4, which is the median. If it didn't receive a vote, it got a value of 0. So that's how we arrived at the numbers in column U. So in past years, we've usually just started at the top and worked our way down the spreadsheet. I think last year we were over about $5,000, so we had to shave that off. This year we're adding on about the same amount.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you. So through the chair, so the way I'm sort of seeing this is like, essentially, you've done this so like all the way to receive 4 votes, and then below here. So in some ways, it would be equitable to kind of just go with what you have here, because the way that you've done it is like there has been this equity of like votes and items and groups. So in some ways we could just allocate the money that's left over and kind of call it a day. Is that correct?
That's one option.
Yeah, it's one option. It's kind of however
Right. I'm just saying like
council wants
Yeah.
to do it.
in a
It's more difficult when we're having to take it away.
Right.
That created a bit more.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying like, you know, it's all been so nicely laid out here, and that
Can we make suggestions?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, can you just tell me again how much we need to allocate, sorry?
4,774.
4,774, okay. And before I take your suggestion, Councillor page, I would like to, before we sort of dive into the our part, is if we could have a motion to accept the juried section of the, so I'd like to have that discussion like first and just know that we're okay with that, because it's very rare that we ever change these numbers.
Yeah.
But we have had the odd one that we didn't accept, but it looks like from just that quick show of hands that everybody is in favor. Councillor Page.
I'm in favor, show of hands.
Second.
So I'm Councillor Pinero, so everybody seems to be okay. So I think it's safe to say then that the council will accept the juried recommendations, and then we can know that that part has been accepted. Now we can go into the part where we as council have to decide. Councillor Page.
I have a question before you suggest.
Yep.
Sorry, could you say again where the amount comes from? It's the average, it's the lowest?
It's the
median,
It's
so
the median,
for
okay, thank you.
example, do you want me to explain it?
No, I can do median.
Okay.
Oh, no, but you
Get out
know
your
what, explain it, just explain it.
Okay.
She can do median,
She's very good at that.
a lot of people probably can't.
Sorry.
Okay, so for example, Nelson at its best, which did receive 7 votes. Nelson at its best.
That's the total amount. So maybe look at, how about number 27?
So for example, okay, we'll do, how about we do supporting families with diverse needs, number
2.
Number 2?
Yeah.
So that received a vote of $1,000, $4,500, $2,000, $1,500, $1,500, 0, $1,000, $1,500. So it would go in order, the 4th lowest number would have been $1,500, and that's what they got.
So you included the zeros in that?
Yeah, I did, and that's what gave me the median. I know you can just take the 4 highest and take the lowest number, but either way, it's the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And so Sonia, that group that received 7 votes, the median for those, except for 1, I guess they were all fully funded. The 7 were all voted to fully fund those ones. I just see
Yes.
1 pink one there, so.
One in pink was the swim meet equipment. I just have to see what number that was.
Can we ask a question?
32.
Yeah.
Could we just talk a little bit about this idea of like fully funding and partially funding?
Sure.
So obviously with partial funding, they can only move forward to a certain degree. What do you think the value is of partial funding, like in terms of, for groups, just as a general conversation?
Well, I take it that you're directing that at me a little bit, but
I would say project specific.
yeah, and I think that too is that, and of course I brought the wrong slip I had at home. I wrote a number of comments on my slip. It doesn't mean that an organization can't go forward, because remember when you go through the backgrounders, it often says, you know, we try to ensure that we're not having minors working, you know, we don't allow child labor. And then whether or not, you know, we ask, there's some other questions there that, well, we don't ask, that are part of the application process. And will this, does not getting this funding mean that your project won't happen? Well, most of them write down, no, like, there's very few that write down that, yeah, without your funding, our project isn't going to happen. The other thing is that I think that when you're looking at it, you have to balance that we're also seeing what the other asks are. So we have in this column, I mean, it's not that that was the total, when I see total funds requested, that wasn't the total fund requested from us, that was across other jurisdictions. And I think that knowing that there's money that's being asked for other areas within the trust. And sometimes I also look and go, I know that, say, 50% of the participants in a certain activity live in the regional district. And when I see no ask for other parts of the regional district, sometimes that makes me think that they should have asked some of the other areas because their residents are benefiting from that program. So you might make a decision that you're not gonna fund as much. So I think that there's lots of reasons. We all probably have our own personal reasons on how we do that. I think there's some big projects, I always like to try to fund a big project as much as possible, because they're like usually, not to be cheeky, they're oftentimes one and done. So if we're looking at something, say, like, the youth center kitchen upgrade, like, once that kitchen upgrade is done, then we know that it's done and community groups can use it, the youth groups can use it. You know, that it's done, like, you know, you can't kind of build half a stove.
Right.
Right, so I mean, I think there's logical, everybody, Councilor Panero, how do you make your decisions?
I think memory serves, I've fully funded everything that I supported just
Yeah.
because of that reason, and then it made it a little harder because I always do fund less things, but it just seemed to make sense to me in that context. And I was just wondering, like, when they do ask, like, diverse family roots, they asked for $4,500 from us and 31,500 from other places. Are they hedging their bets, like that they're gonna get something from us and something from other places, and the real cost of that project might be 20,000, or is, like, do we have any way of?
Well, I think when you
What's
read, like, when you
traditional?
read their document, that it should reflect what they're using their total ask for, not that they're asking for twice as much and expecting to get half and then only getting a quarter.
Okay.
Like, I would hope that that's not the way people approach,
So in that sense,
these
then
grants.
if we're not fully funding, to Jesse's point, then we are kind of hamstringing
Well,
their operation.
I think it's, you know, a lot of these organizations are fairly familiar with this type of process. And so then you end up with a scaling that happens, right? Like, to do the full program the way that we have it here, you know,
Right.
we need X amount of dollars. However, we don't get all of that. It's not like we just walk away from all of it. We still provide a program, but it's just been curtailed in certain aspects to be able to provide whatever level.
Right.
So while I can't say that for all of them by any means, it's, you know, a lot of these folks are very experienced at asking for money and going out, and they understand how it goes. I mean, we do that as well, right? We go out for grants and we look for it, and you know, if we don't get quite as much as we thought on some things, you know, like emergency program's a great example. We go out looking for money to train, and if we only get, you know, 70% of what we were asking for, we offer less training, right? So I think that that's probably that balance, you know. Like, just cause it's at the top of the list here, you look at, you know, Black Productions, SpongeBob SquarePants, the musical. You know, I don't know if, like, she doesn't get all the funding if we're just gonna get a 20-minute musical, right? Or probably it's the full thing, but, you know, she's probably then
Spending
looking
less on whatever you can spend
Yeah,
less on.
exactly, right?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to hear a little bit about people's process around that idea.
Councilor Payne.
And I I would have assumed you would have written ReDi Grants, cause there's the other component about it that, yeah, having written it, I
Never
would say
written it.
the same as what the general manager said. You often put in a bit of a contingency fund in case you don't get fully funded, and there's generally phases of your project, and it really is a bit of a house of cards sometimes when you're applying around the region, because some areas will fund you and some won't for the project, but you just have to adapt the project, and there's other funding streams that people can also go for if they don't get the full funding. So it doesn't, it is often, you know, they'd certainly like to get all the money in one chunk, that would be the easiest thing, but I don't think they're often deal killers, and as the mayor said in here, it says, is the project still viable? So yeah, having written them, I would say it's not a huge thing.
A lot of these organizations too, this is, you know, a small amount of funds like this is, they can often turn into many times more, right? And I looked at, while they're not on here, the Community Energy Association, they're like, you know, experts at that. I think, you know, the council has supported them in the past for a project, you know, to the tune of, you know, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 that they've then turned into millions, right? And it's just that seed funding that gets them in the next door of the next fund or two.
Thank you.
Councilor Page.
Thank you. The poverty 4-year plan, I'd like to see that fully funded. For consideration. It's a 7 vote, I think it's doing just over.
We're just gonna work through.
We gave them
It is
the full
fine.
amount.
Yes,
On
the
my
full
sheet.
amount that they
You
requested.
need to use that one or the most.
Don't look at the
recent one I
gray,
sent.
look at the yellow.
That's right.
So
perfect.
if you
Well,
look at their
easy
application,
I just wanted to get us started with a quick win.
Okay, there you go.
they will be happy to know of your support.
Can we just, I mean, I don't know, but if everybody, this is maybe just cutting too many corners, but can we just talk about the ones that are like 4 or less, and does that get rid of our excess money if we can just narrow that down?
Well, I
Cause
think that-
everything else
I mean-
seems like everybody likes it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing would be is
That's
that,
what I was saying.
I think the opposite is true, was what Keith was saying, why don't we go for the ones that had the most votes and top them up? See, you have different strategies.
no, I think he thought that the number was, because the numbers are so close there, he wasn't looking for a top up. So I think that we can agree that 7 votes is 7 votes, so they're gonna get what they've, what's been allocated there. And then really it is, what you're saying is correct, we could look at
Just the
4,
bottom.
like at 4 votes.
Mhm.
Or we could look at something there, maybe there's somebody that had a much bigger amount that they wanted, and now they will do exactly what Councillor Page did there and is make a pitch for another couple of thousand to go in any of the ones that haven't reached their maximum, so
With
keeping-
the 4,000 that's left over is what you're saying there.
yes. Because if I'm looking at this and reading as well, so like of the like people that received 6 votes, 2 got full funding.
Okay, can I? Can I have something else then?
Sure, give it a whirl.
If I'm looking at the right sheet, the 3 vote for the Castlegar District Community Services West Kidney Driver Program only got 3 votes. And I think, they're the ones running a bunch of people around, volunteering to run people back and forth to different appointments. Not just in Castlegar, but like throughout the region.
Which number are you looking at? You were confused.
Then we have
52.
or 52 is budget. and then
And is it in the received votes or is it in less, in when,
3 or fewer, so.
3 or fewer?
I don't have that page.
It's not printed
That's
out.
why I just looked at the
Oh, we
sheet,
need
so-
to go on to the
Oh, I
spreadsheet to see that.
3 or fewer?
You are.
3 or fewer goes to,
Oh, we're missing a page.
Yeah, it might not have got printed out.
Okay, nice. No
So on the
worries.
Excel sheet, it's one program looking at and understanding what they're doing for the West Kootenai Driver Program. I think it's a pretty spectacular service and it deserves a 4th vote at least. Maybe a few people who didn't vote for it could change their vote.
Well, I voted for it because I thought that we were always talking about transportation, and it was very clear if you actually attended that evening that she was quite clear that they do driving and that the most of the driving they do is actually for residents that live in Nelson. If you were actually
It's a
here
trail.
when for the open house, Councillor Payne.
yeah, I mean, there is an organization in Nelson who performs the same service. So I reached out to that organization and I just tried to better understand, and they said, no, they provide the same service, they have volunteers. This particular organization started before, so yeah, there is some overlap. And they have been trying to work and coordinate to offer services better within their own mandate. So I did not support a council organization reaching. This is one of those things of gaps and overlaps that a better level of coordination, I think, would serve the population around transportation. So I don't want to change my vote.
You don't think they're talking enough together? They're not collaborating?
Well, I called them up and asked them. I know both parties, having worked in
Maybe
this
services
position
side.
myself.
Interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, I think funding them doesn't really encourage them to collaborate.
Anybody else wanna take a whirl at anything?
Yeah, $3,500. There's a gap, they need as much support, I think, in all communities, moving people at that last mile piece around. I don't think this is, I'm not necessarily ready to weigh in on long-term strategic systemized organization regionally, based on that. And so I would just say we should probably just fund them and continue to work to support them, coordinating and making the most of the limited funds they're already using.
Counselor Tate,
I don't have the final allocation from last year, but I know that we looked at that last year. I was just curious where we landed last year. Anyone have that available? I don't have it, sorry.
you think that we've funded the Castle Guard driver program
The
last year?
West Kootenai driver program was on the list last year, but I don't have the final allocation, so I was curious. Thank you.
Anybody else while she's looking up wanna make any comment about?
I have it, it'll just be a minute.
Does not look like that was. I'm looking at the
Oh,
rate
here it
sheet
is.
here, Sonia.
Yeah.
2024, April 15th.
Yeah.
It's line 52 or 74 in the Excel document, but number 52.
Same as last year.
No, sure, go.
I might
She's
not
looking
be able to-
something up, so
I got it, yeah. It's just, I don't have the one where we, cause I think we rejiggled a few things. I was curious if we landed on it or not.
That one,
I don't have it.
sorry, Chris, what number was that?
Yeah, no, I think I was looking at the wrong sheet.
It was number, last year it was number 34.
Okay, that one did not get any.
Thank you.
This is out, I don't know, it's kind of adding to the confusion potentially, but was there a 3-vote one? And it was the West Kootenai Fiber Shed Society of 39. I'm aware of some work that's being done up the lake with this, and it seems like just like homegrown industry and potentially like something that I don't know, people are very fond of reading about what's going on down south, so I think this has like the potential to be a homegrown industry, something that, you know, people can get people to work and something that actually produces something in this region that like could be produced here and grown here, and I'm not sure the extent of their work, but it's a great idea, and it's $837, which is like nothing. So, you know, it caught my eye as something that, you know, seemed to be smart and forward thinking, and also with a fairly affordable price tag. Just curious to see where that would go if it were funded. If anybody has any thoughts about it.
So just, so that's the West Kootenai Fiber Shed Society, Flax Processing Tools and Regional Skills Revival Project. Just for anybody who didn't catch that.
Flax, for those of you who never know that, makes linen, so that's like homegrown textile industry, and was something that was here before.
Mayor, do you mind if I?
Yep,
I'm-
sure, give
Just a
shout out.
logistical question. No, I'm flipping back and forth because am I correct, we don't have page 5? There
Yeah,
should
we
be a
don't have page 5.
It's coming. I asked Maggie
Oh, okay,
to bring
thank
it
you.
in, so-
Okay, sorry, yeah, I'm having a challenge flipping
So
back and
I-
forth between those spreadsheets, so.
Thankfully, I had a blank one from the meeting in my
Yeah, I meant to
drawer,
take one of
so.
those, but they were gone when I got to it, so.
Oh, they weren't here today, they were from,
No,
this is
they
from
were
the
from
last meeting.
Yeah, I was there and I was gonna take one home, but others got them.
Yeah, cause I was
which was
thinking,
great.
where's 51? Yeah, so anyway, so we've got two things there, okay, anybody else wanna add to the list of like bringing something that didn't make the list at all forward? Is there something there that catches one's eye that you feel needs to have an upgrade, another look?
Do you want us to just speak?
Yeah,
Oh.
just like this isn't kind of,
I'm interested when the CBT considers us in conflict of interest when we're funding one of our own departments out of this money? Is that anything that's ever come up?
nope,
Okay, so we could fund anything in the city, so we can just,
Well, no, I think their programs, they've been clear, like we can't fund snow plowing or our core services, right?
no, I mean, different departments, I mean, the climate department could have, put something in, like we could
Potentially,
have, we
yeah.
could really
I think as long as,
take everything.
as long as it's not core municipal services.
Thank you very much.
So I think that's the differentiation. Things like, you know, the youth center is not offered by most municipalities and is something that's,
It's a regional asset.
well, and it's, like I said, it's not a core
They didn't ask
municipal
not
for
a
service.
core municipal, like, wouldn't be something that, we don't have to have the youth center,
Yeah, whereas, you know, recreation.
or the campground, or
Those
the,
sorts of things are,
Or the farmer's market.
farmer's market could apply, right?
Yeah, no, they did,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying,
but I
I
meant those
just,
are not core municipal services. So yes,
I find that a conflict for us to assign money to our own programs. So that's why I didn't get 7 votes. And the other question I have, I guess, that I wasn't really clear on, because I saw somewhere that they were installing a commercial kitchen. Is there a reason that we need commercial at the youth center?
Yeah, in an ideal world, they'll rent out some space, but also they're very limited in what they can pump out, produce, I guess. So even what they feed their kids after school, in their after school program, or at their spring break camps, or whatever it is, they are limited in what they can provide because they don't have a commercial kitchen. It's a fire, a health safety issue.
food
Yeah.
safety issue, for
yeah,
sure.
it's you know, providing a commercial service, we have to meet
Yeah.
a higher standard than if that was just a
So
volunteer.
daycare centers require a commercial kitchen? I didn't
It
realize
depends
that.
on well, it's not a daycare center, it runs spring break
I'm just
camps
trying to
and-
think, when you're saying it's a commercial service, to me, a daycare facility is a commercial service, but I'm not aware of, I'm just trying to straighten out in my head what this service
what they-
is.
I think it's what you serve,
That's what you serve.
right?
And it's a very old kitchen.
I get that,
So
I
to
read all
bring
about the initial upgrade and what they're planning to do.
So it is a fire department recommendation that we bring it up to a commercial kitchen grade.
Yeah, cause what's that, 3 to 4 times as much as just having a regular kitchen? It's a significant increase.
One that I had is number 44, which is on the 3 list now that I see it here. And that's the Raptor Rehabilitation Center. Now, I realize that that's in Golden, that is in the CBT area. And as I think is that we have all these concerns about wildlife, and we don't have as much activity here in the Nelson area, that I thought that, I mean, I think I had maybe put down on my sheet like $1,000, but they have asked all of the area, and raptors do require specialized care, for sure, so that was just one that I had.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And Councillor Tate,
I'll pitch for the Intercultural Kootenai Society, Stronger Together Building Inclusive Community. I think that in these very tumultuous times where EDI programs are getting gutted and regulated and de-legislated, I think that any time that we can stand up for things that I think as a council we believe in, I'd like to see that go through. That's $4,000, that'll clear us up really quick. I think that would be a great place for us as a council to lean into. Number 34 received 4 votes.
We already gave them 2, right? So another 2 is what they're asking for.
you're asking about making it whole.
Yeah,
Yep, okay.
Go ahead.
So Nelson 54, transportation, community, Nelson area community transportation website. So it's the Nelson City Active and Transit Transportation website. Is there not like potentially some replication here? Like if you wanna find out where your bus comes, you just go to BC Transit and type in where you are and it's there already, is it not? Like, so why do we need a whole other website? Maybe we do, I just don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's not so much on transit, it's more the active transportation side of it.
And who's, like, I may have the luxury of having lived here for too long, but I don't need directions to downtown, like, how to walk downtown, like, what? We're not a big place, I guess the complexities of that problem escape me. You know, like if I wanna bike to Rosemont, I can do it. I don't
I think
sort of
there's
why we need a website for that.
Yeah, I think they're more promoting active transportation as opposed to, here's, how do you do it safely? How do you build that momentum? We have these active transportation routes, so I think that's their focus is how do we get people comfortable and expand usage is really their focus.
Not so much a mapping tool as it
Yeah.
is a marketing tool.
I see, marketing.
But they do want to integrate it with the city webpage, which talking to the proponent, I had some concerns about in terms of how that might look, given the fact that we are trying to develop a brand, a look. And so I did support this with some money, but it was probably one of the reasons I didn't support it with a full amount of money, that's for sure, in terms of the fact that there is still that, you can't, like, hopefully we just don't, every group that wants to put something on, we don't suddenly just have tags all over our webpage, because we already hear that it's hard to navigate the city webpage, so I think there has to be some cohesion there, and so if you read their plan, they're planning to hire somebody that does web design, and that's great, but at the same time, I think that if you're gonna put it on the Nelson page, it also has to be somewhat temporary. Time will tell.
Yeah, I just find active transportation in Nelson pretty intuitive and those that do it probably already do it, but.
It's a good call. Just looking at the project now and the summary of the website scope that was produced by ChatGPT. It says in it, and I don't think that's gonna be effective at the end of the day.
You don't think it's gonna be effective?
No. As presented.
I mean, they did present, one of the things that caught me this time that I had difficulty with, and maybe the rest of you didn't because you're more intuitive about all this, but this group applied for 3 items at
I saw that.
at $5,000 each. And I mean, one of them really stuck out to me. I love the idea of getting into the schools, teaching cycling, teaching some rules of the road, which seem to be completely absent when you watch people, including adults, ride around town. And I was really supportive of that, and I probably put in the full amount for that. And then these other ones, maybe lesser so, because again, they asked, and this is where, when Councillor Woodward asked about how do you decide things, is that they wanna do the trail enhancement. I'm glad to have the trail enhancement going up into the rails to trails, but again, the ask was solely to the city of Nelson. There wasn't a concomitant ask to the regional district, which actually the rails to trail is actually in the regional district, and I think that there could be some co-work done there again, and so it was like that kind of caught my eye. But the bigger question was, like, if the agreement had been like, what if we just gave them $10,000 and they figured out which project they wanted to do? The same with I wanna say it's the Kootenai Native Plant Society had 3 asks. I think their smallest one was like $300 and their biggest one was like a 800 or something. It's like, what if we just gave you like $1,000 and then you figured out which one of your, you know, as opposed to the fact that we had like three of them that we had to decide about, in terms of whether or not we gave them any money. And so, you know, one comes to the top, but like, to me, it was like, well, maybe one will be more feasible than the other two and they'll spend their money there. It was just when a group comes and puts, you know, 2 or 3 different asks on the table in the same organization that I struggle a little bit with that. But I'm hearing on 54 that there's 2 people who think that perhaps that should be reduced or taken back,
Potentially reallocated
Or-
to their other.
reallocated somewhere.
We don't ask them to report back on how they spent the money though.
The CBT does.
They have to
CBT
do-
does.
You have to do a report
Yeah,
at
they do
the
have to
end
do a
of that.
So Sonia,
So switching it around for the native plant thing, you can't do that.
You could have and have it. Tell them.
What?
You can have and have it.
can I just ask?
Yeah.
So the reason they've applied for under 5,000, they're not registered societies, so did we? The RDCK has vetted these, so you
Yeah.
can apply for
Yeah,
3
he has
different
that,
projects, even though
yeah.
in total you're over 5,000?
He asked that question specifically and got that answer from him,
Okay.
for RCK, that they could apply for up to 5,000.
So one option, you know, I do notice that the education one, you've chosen to partly fund that, so you could say that's our priority and we wanna move money from partially funding these 3 to, you know, have them more whole.
I like that. That's a
Yeah.
great idea. All in favor?
Okay, I'm just like, where is the other, where did we partially fund the other one? Sorry, so I've got the one in front of me, 54, but where,
So there's one on 47, which I think that's on page 3. Near the bottom. Page 3 on the, near the bottom is the education one. So they asked for.
Yeah.
5,000,
So we give them
funded
another
25 at this
$24.99.
stage.
So if you give them $24.99 and take the 2,000 out of number 54, we've got an additional $4.99 to play with.
If you don't think that building a website is a priority, then just reallocate to the education, which seems, I just think it was more of a priority.
One of the like looking in there and talking about interactive mapping and all of that jazz, where we really wanna be positioning ourselves as a city and as regional district is what does our community input program look like? How do we work with an external stakeholder to improve the fidelity of the planning, of the mapping that we already have for active transportation within our own GIS system? And then how do we make that available to integrate into your own website, which is a totally doable thing as long as we've done some policy work to make it happen.
I don't see a problem with
Right.
that, so am I
It's a
hearing, so we're gonna take the money from 54, which is 2,000?
It's 2,000.
2,000, and we're gonna put it into their other project, which is 47. And then that'll be at 4,500, so that's almost a full
It's gonna give
ask.
them $24.99, but okay, close enough.
Do they not have another one on here too?
They do, yeah.
47?
Yeah.
It's even higher with voted.
Can I just say one more thing about that regional mapping? Community Lake Tourism, I think combined with maybe Community Futures or currently GNet, a couple of years ago was talking about a region-wide app, so directed at tourists who, when they get here, they do not know how to get from Fairview to get to Caslow, and they were able to, the intention was to combine everything, which would then be a value. The local buses, the transit system, the car shares, the ride shares, like just have a one-stop shop. That project, I don't know whatever happened to it, I assume it was a funding thing as well. But that would be something that would make more sense of integrating this part into it, not starting with this and going nowhere.
So it's-
Again, you wanna focus your efforts on getting that data available to like Open Maps and Apple Maps and Google Maps, and then those apps will do that rather than trying to inform people to find your app.
So I think we're good here for, yes, is everybody okay with that? So we've shifted 54's money from same group into their education thing. And yeah, number 27 was received 6 votes at, again, that trail upgrade, 3,000 of the $4,900 ask, but I think that they needed to look to the regional district a little bit there to give them some assistance. That will give them some good starting money potentially. Okay, so now we're back to 34, because we basically just swapped nothing there. So if we go back to 34, that Councillor Tate has put on the table for adding in an additional 2,000 to the intercultural Kootenai work. So now we would start getting into the 4,774. Anybody have any yays, nays, further comments, or is there something else that we haven't heard from yet that people wanna contemplate?
Do we have money, we're still cutting, we still have to cut, right?
No, we have extra money, we have 4,774 extra.
Oh,
Do we have
So-
that up there?
Councillor Tate is asking for $2,000 more to go to intercultural Kootenays, which would leave us then 2,774.
Wanna do a show of hands for that or something?
I guess my question is there any other ones? Why don't we get them all out? If anybody has anything else that they want
Well, that's what I
to
wanna
talk
know,
about.
does anybody else have any, so I've got some concerns, so I've got 30, I'm just going backwards to my numbers, cause I haven't heard any more numbers come up. So, somebody had flagged 44, 39, and 51, so,
49 native meadows, magic meadows. About combining that.
Well, and if you look at where you all voted 7 votes, there was Living Lakes, I asked for 10.
the only one that we didn't do is, we're not gonna talk about sevens, I think we're past the sevens. So,
So
I guess the diverse family roots, you asked for 45, you gave 15. So that next section,
Yeah.
you haven't funded those ones fully, and 6 people voting for that section.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that my strategy isn't to fully fund
yeah,
everything,
yeah.
so
So
that's okay.
I'm just gonna go, so, again, so 34 was intercultural Kootenays. I hear some support coming from Councillor Payne to up the ante on that one. Anybody else have a comment on that?
I'd be happy to support that, Mayor.
Yeah, I think it's a good call.
So that would get rid of 2,000 more. So we would be going to the full 4,000, this is plus 2K.
So then we'd have about 2,000 left.
And now we're down to 2,774.
We still have the $4.99 from that website. Left over from the website.
You're short, 499.
No, we just moved the
Oh, that was
website
the
ask
other
to
one.
the,
Okay.
we don't have anything
My bad.
left over.
That was the would have been the
So, 44 was my crazy ask for a little bit of money for the mittens, which was on a 3. So I'm willing to forego that. Was 39 in the 4 or more category? No, it's in a 3. And then also Counselor, yours is also in a 3, 51. No, what was your? 49.
Magic in the Meadows.
Oh, no, your thing was, the West County Drivers Program, which is 52, sorry, I had the wrong number.
Sorry.
So we did give the intercultural Kootenays the additional 2,000?
Yes,
Okay. So now we have 2774 left.
Yeah. and so we have, so things that have come up are 39, which is a 3 or less, so never got any money. The Little Mittens Animal Rescue and the West Kootenay Driver Program, so 39, 44, and 52 are ones that have reappeared, and do you have a number to add?
Yes, I do. 50, I'm very surprised that a group that's done so much, I know it's not their general direction. The Izushi Friendship Society, but we have generally funded them. We know it's a very strong organization with lots of volunteers who've added just incredibly to what Cottonwood Park looks like. And I think in days like these, having a strong sister city relationship, I really think we should find an American city and befriend them.
We do have an American sister city.
We do. And we need some volunteers like these folks picking a park and letting us know about it. I did not know.
I just say that, Leslie, like, one of the things that, how I thought about that was that, they have had a lot of funding from us and they have done incredible work. But I kind of was looking through this and there's a lot of need from a lot of other organizations, so I kind of felt like, you know, they aren't always gonna get it, but they have gotten quite a bit of deep support for a long time. And I did feel kind of like there was just such a need for other organizations too, so that was sort of my thinking of that.
And it is the unfortunate thing that societies like that depend on
Yes.
the funding.
Yeah, they're more
When
dependent on.
when it's not continuous, different programs that they have going on. You've been in that world where grant funding keeps programs going even when they should be. You know, the idea is to have them be sustainable, and that's a rarity.
Well, Councillor
One thing on there, the society, so they used to get, cause they did the exchange every year for a long time, so they'd have an ongoing $2,000 a year funding that we provided. Then probably COVID time, I think they switched to every couple of years, so rather than get 2,000 every year, they get 4,000 every 2 years when they do that, so just, so you know, there is some funding that we provide them, but
So every other year,
yeah, when they do their exchange,
okay.
that they receive that 4,000. There's nothing for 2025, I think it's 2026 would be the next time they do that.
where's that line item in the budget? I'm sorry.
It's just
Never knew.
one of those things, yeah, I mean, it's small, it's $2,000 a year, it's just something that was always on there, and like I say, during COVID, it's just started to skip a year.
But it's still there.
Are there any others like that we should know about?
Because the other thing would be, is
Is there
we're
a
down to
little
$2,774. I mean,
We know that we're being nice to people,
we
so if
could,
they come up and
we could just put the full amount towards the Nelson and Susie Friendship Society, I mean, but, okay, Councillor Pinero, you've got another one?
No, but I think to that point, like, they are asking for $21,000 and we have 2. So I was just looking at like impact of what that 2 could get. I would rather, I think, sort of the way my head works, like I would rather have projects that, you know, go forward and get their full potential. And if we have an opportunity to add one of those projects that is fully funded with $2,000, like why not just, you know, quantity as opposed to like $2,000 out of 21 is just a drop in the bucket. But for example, this flax processing thing.
So here's my thought, Councillor Panero, could we, and we'll just test the water on this. These crazy numbers, like these numbers that have nickels and dimes in them that kind of drive me a little bit crazy when you're trying to even do this at home. How about if we were to give the 774 to flax?
Let's go flax.
Go
And then we
flax.
still have what?
And then we have just a 2,000, then we have 2,000, then we have a round number that we can then.
Sure.
Do you wanna give them their full amount, they're
Yeah.
asking for 837.50.
No, you want around them.
It just makes sense, then somebody else isn't getting the, like, so I'm just saying 774, cause we're getting down to these round numbers of
I support that.
However, they came up with 837.50.
50, I mean, so they can live with 774 when they come up with 837.50, yeah.
They'll see it and they'll be like, why?
Yeah.
And can I
So-
just add one other thing
Yep.
about grant writing? Is often, even though you don't get the full amount, you can
Yeah.
leverage that amount by applying to someone else. And they're gonna say, well, who else is funding you? And then they can say, well, the city of Nelson is giving us 2,000. And that gives the grantor more of a, oh, well, if city of Nelson is in, sure, we can give you 5 or 10 or whatever. Whereas if, what's that?
Everybody else $100.
Yeah,
That might not do it, but $2,000 is probably
Okay.
enough to.
so we have, I think at this point, unfortunately, Nelson Isuzu is off the list,
I thought we just said 2,000.
or are we gonna give them the 2,000?
No.
I think the comment is that 2,000 is so little against what they're looking for that, and if we've
Oh, and
already got a,
That's why I was saying that even that much to get other grants is a benefit, but
I
we're saying.
always look at question 10, which is the project viable without already funding support? Like, whenever we're in this question, I'm like, I look at that,
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
their ask is really covering all of their entitlement, like it's there to lift and support, they'll be there.
so I'm taking 50 off of my list and now I'm down to 44 and 52. And I'm open to more numbers.
I think Councillor Page had 49 on the list, is that correct? The Magic in the Meadows could be named class.
Another easy home run.
So Kootenai Meadows, Magic in the Meadows, we gave them 250. Did any of their other projects get supported? They had 3. This was another one where an organization applied for 3. I'm assuming I don't see it on 3, so we did on 23 and at 29. We fully funded them for 23 and 29. We didn't fully fund their 49. So, you know, in my mind, it was like, that was like crazy thing, like I wanted to just say to them, here's $1,000, you figure out, you know, what you've come up with short,
Okay, can I just, so, I'm glad, I'm nice that people voted for those. One of them to me is, I hope I have this right. Yeah, like one's learning in the meadow with everything and the other ones are art-based projects. Right, they're sketching, they're taking photos, and then one of them was learning on the ecology of the meadow. So I kind of made the call around the, like, let's teach people how the meadow works. I guess you're gonna pick that up with art and stuff, and so maybe that's
And-
a cultural thing, maybe this should have gone into the cultural
and
section.
again, when they were here and they spoke to it,
Sure.
and Councillor Payne and Councillor Tate were, and Councillor Woodward were here. They did talk about the fact that all of the work, whether or not it was the painting or that, like, that the idea was to get out there and then understand the ecology. So like, they've got some artists that are gonna go out and help with painting, but they were working on what are pollinators, identifying plants, so that's supposed to be part of all of those projects, and so, yeah, I mean, we could give more money to the native, we could fully fund all their projects, I guess, or they're gonna have $1,000 now and they can split it up how they need to through
If
there.
we put 200 here, can they just do whatever they want with it? So just go there. just an extra report to fill out.
Whatever you want.
It seems like there's in their asks, it seems like there's some sort of like synergies that.
Well, there is synergy. They probably could have asked, they could have asked for $3,000 in one ask because they weren't anywhere near the $5,000 limit.
They're asking against multiple people.
Yeah, if they're getting funded on other things, I'm fine. I just.
Okay, so anybody else got a number that they wanna throw out there? So then, do we split the difference on this and we give 44 and 52 $1,000 each?
Like, I think West Kootenai drivers will make use of whatever funds we send them. I think the way they're structured, they exist already. Just helping move more people. So that's all. So 1,000's gonna go further than 0.
Sorry, Mary, you were saying 44 and what was the other one?
52.
52 and 44,000 each, and that would
We're done.
So we did give to the fiber shed.
Yes, we gave them the 774 of the 2,774 that we still have to spend.
Well, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty good spread.
Third that or fourth that?
Okay,
Still have,
everybody good?
no, I'm not, but it doesn't matter, you
Okay.
don't need everybody.
Okay, so we got
4.
We've got 4, yeah. Okay.
I'm giving money to an organization rated out of Castlegar that doesn't provide the service that we have provided in Nelson and not to give to the Isuzu. So,
Well, one of the things that I would encourage is, I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying, Councillor Payne, is that hopefully next year, the local group puts in an ask. And then, of course, because it would be local, that would be definitely something that would probably even get more likely their full ask, as we know that we're challenged by transportation throughout the Kootenays, so.
I don't
Yeah.
think we've ever had an ask.
Okay, I think we're done.
Okay, wow. Need like a final vote or anything?
It's up on the agenda, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we do need a resolution.
So, let me see, do I have it written down here? Okay, there we
I'll
go.
move that, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Pinero. Councillor Woodward.
Okay, so this is okay, Chris. That council has considered applications for funding allocated to the city of Nelson under the Resident Directed Funding Program for 2025 and recommends to the RDCK Board of Directors that funding be awarded to the following organizations as follows, and then that will be. Successful projects will be listed by organizations and funding amount following council's decision.
All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, so we have a bit of a, let me get to the next part done. So thank you very much for the ReDi Grant funding allocations.
Can you say it? I just wanna say thank you to Sonia
Sonia,
for pulling this all together and
Yes.
very clear.
very good. I was really worried when it was gonna be like $11,000 more that we had to put in. I thought, oh boy, that's gonna be interesting. So if I could just like to go on to item number 8, and that's the resolution to close the meeting to the public. It is the opinion of the council that the public interest requires that persons other than members of council and staff and any approved audiences be excluded from this meeting, and the meeting of council continue under section 91L regarding the annual municipal report. If I could have a mover. Moved by Councillor Payne, seconded by Councillor Pinero. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, so council, we're gonna have a small break because our in-camera item